this is Unit 7. In this video lesson, we are going to talk about present simple passive and past simple passive. But first of all, let's remember the present simple passive. Present simple passive is used to talk about some actions which are performed in the present. Why is the passive used? When we want to focus on the action itself, not who performs it, or when we don't know who does the action, we use the passive. How is it formed? When a sentence is turned from the active into the passive in the present simple, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Only verbs that take an object can become passive verbs. The verb changes from the active form into the passive form. Verb to be, am is are, plus the past participle of the main verb. The subject of the active sentence becomes the agent of the passive sentence if necessary. We don't use the agent when it is easily understood or when we are referring to people in general. Now let's look at this active sentence. Paul waters the plants every day. Who waters the plants every day? Paul waters the plants every day. So, in this sentence, Paul is our subject. He is the person who does the action. And now let's ask, what does Paul do? Paul waters the plants every day. What does he waters? He waters the plants. So the plants is our object in this sentence. Now let's look at the passive form. The plants are watered by Paul every day. What are watered by Paul every day? The plants. So in this sentence, the plants is our subject. Who does the action? Paul does the action. But we used it with by Paul. So by Paul is our agent. In negative sentences, we put not after am, is, are. Let's look at the active sentence. Paul doesn't water the plants every day. So the person who does the action is very clear in this sentence. Who doesn't water the plants? Paul doesn't water the plants. So Paul is our subject. As the subject is clear in this sentence, it's an active sentence. Now let's look at the passive form. The plants aren't watered by Paul every day. What are not watered by Paul every day? The plants. So it is the passive form of the sentence. In questions, we put am, is, are at the beginning of the sentence. Does Paul water the plants every day? This is the active sentence. Now let's look at the passive form. We put are at the beginning of our sentence. Are the plants watered by Paul every day? By Paul is our agent in this sentence. Okay, right now let's practice the present simple passive. Rewrite the sentences in the passive form. People play football all over the world. Okay, who plays football all over the world? People play football. So people is the subject of our sentence. So the first sentence is active. Who does the action is very clear. It is obvious. Who plays football? People play football. Now let's make it passive. While making it passive, we put the object at the beginning of our sentence. So what is our object? Our object is football. What is played by people all over the world? Football is played all over the world. In this sentence, we can also add by people at the end of the sentence, but it is not really necessary. Now let's look at the second one. They speak German in Switzerland. Okay, it's an active sentence. How do we understand it? We understand it because the person who does the action is obvious. Who speaks German in Switzerland? They speak German in Switzerland. Now let's ask this question. What do they speak in Switzerland? German. So German is the object of our sentence. We have to put it at the beginning of our sentence. So German plus the verb to be, am is are, and the past participle of the verb, which is spoken. German is spoken in Switzerland. This is the passive form of our sentence. Now let's look at the third one. We prepare breakfast at 7 o'clock every morning. Who prepares breakfast? We prepare it. So it's an active sentence. The person who does the action is obvious. Who prepares it? We prepare it. Okay, now let's see. What do we prepare? We prepare the breakfast. So breakfast is the object of our sentence. We have to put it at the beginning of our sentence now to make it passive form. So breakfast, the verb to be, am is are, plus the past participle of the verb. Now let's see. Breakfast is prepared at 7 o'clock every morning. Four, they keep the money in safe. Who keeps the money in safe? They keep it. So they is the subject of our sentence. Okay, so what do they keep? They keep the money. The money is the object of our sentence. We have to put it in the beginning of our sentence. So the money is kept in safe. It's the passive form. 5. An Italian company produces Ferrari. Who produces Ferrari? An Italian company. An Italian company is the subject of our sentence. Okay, what does it prepare? What does it produce? It produces Ferrari. So Ferrari is the object of our sentence. Now we have to put it at the beginning. Ferraris, be careful because it's plural. Ferraris are produced by an Italian company. That's the passive form of our sentence. 6. How many languages do you speak in Spain? Now let's make it passive. We write the question form in like the same. How many languages are spoken in Spain is the passive form of our sentence. Okay, 7. Do they serve fish in this restaurant? Is fish served in this restaurant is the passive form of our sentence. 8. How do they check the quality of the products in this factory? How is the quality of the products checked in this factory? 9. Ellen doesn't teach history at school. Who doesn't teach history? Ellen. Ellen is the subject of our sentence. What doesn't he teach? He doesn't teach history. So history is the object. We put it in the beginning. History isn't taught by Ellen at school. 10. They don't allow the kids to go out. Who doesn't allow the kids to go out? They. So they is the subject of our sentence. What do they not allow? They don't allow the kids to go out. Okay, the kids aren't allowed to go out. The kids is the object of our sentence. They aren't allowed to go out is the passive form. Let's check these sentences. They built the castle in 1320. The castle was built in 1320. Do you see a difference between these sentences? In the first sentence, it is written, they built the castle. In the second sentence, it's written, the castle was built. But the thing you have to consider here is, built is the past tense, used as a past tense. They built the castle. So, when we want to talk about a completed action in the past, we use past passive. Was, were plus past participle of the verb. So we make it was built in 1320. And now let's look at the second sentence. They washed the dirty dishes. Who washed the dirty dishes? They. They is the subject. What did they do? They washed the dirty dishes. So washed is used in the past tense here, as a past tense here. But we want to form it as passive, past passive. The dirty dishes were washed. If the word was singular here, then we would say was washed. But here it's written dishes. So it is plural. And we want to make it past passive. So we used were washed. Now let's see how we form the passive voice of the past simple. When a sentence is turned from the active into the passive in the past simple, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Only verbs that take an object can become passive verbs. The verb changes from the active form into the passive form. Verb to be now becomes was, were. If it is singular, we use was, but if the word is plural, we use were, plus the past participle of the main verb. The subject of the active sentence becomes the agent of the passive sentence if necessary. We don't use the agent when it is easily understood or when we are referring to people in general. Now let's look at this active sentence. John Logie Baird invented television. Okay, invented is the verb of our sentence. Who invented television? John Logie Baird. So he is the subject of our sentence. What did he invent? He invented television. So television is the object of our sentence. Now let's look at the passive form. Television was invented by J. Logie Baird. Okay, now let's ask this question. What was invented by J. Logie Baird? Television. So now in this passive sentence, television becomes our subject. And by J. Logie Baird becomes our agent. So simply, when we want to talk about a completed action in the past, we use past passive voice, which are was, were plus past participle of the main verb. In negative sentences, we put not after was, were. Jack didn't paint the fence. Jack is the subject of our sentence, so the person who does the action is obvious, so it is an active sentence. Now let's make it passive. The fence wasn't painted by Jack. So in questions, we put was, were at the beginning of the sentence. Did Jack paint the fence? Now let's put was at the beginning of our sentence. Was the fence painted by Jack? Let's study these sentences. Mrs. Harrison taught class 5A. Okay, Mrs. Harrison is the subject of our sentence. So she is the person who does the action. What did she do? She taught class 5A. So taught is the verb and it is used in the past tense. So while making it passive, we have to use past simple passive because past simple passive is normally used to talk about some completed actions in the past. And to make statements with the past simple passive, we use was, were plus past participle of the verb. Now let's look at this sentence. Class 5A, it is singular. It was taught by Mrs. Harrison. It's the passive form. Now let's look at the second one. The hotel staff spoke English. Who spoke English? The hotel staff. The hotel staff is the subject of our sentence. And spoke is the verb used in the past. So, while making it passive, we have to use past simple passive. English was, it is singular, so we use the was and plus the past participle of the verb speak, spoke, spoken. Spoken is the past participle. So English was spoken by the hotel staff is the passive form. Did they invite Bob to the party? Okay, to make a question in the past simple passive, we swap the subject and was, were. So the structure for asking questions in past simple passive is was, were plus subject plus past participle. So in this sentence, we put was at the beginning of our sentence. Was Bob invite is the first form, but we want to make it past participle, so we say invited. Was Bob invited to the party? Now let's look at the other sentence. Mr. Davis didn't feed the animals yesterday. Mr. Davis is the subject of our sentence. He is the person who does the action. So it's an active sentence. What didn't he do yesterday? He didn't feed the animals. It's our verb. And the animals is the sub-object of our sentence. So we should make it passive. We put the object at the beginning of our sentence. The object is the animals. The animals is used as plural, so we use were normally, but here in the sentence we should use it in a negative way. So the animals weren't, the past participle of the verb feed, the past participle of it is fed. So the animals weren't fed by Mr. Davis yesterday. Okay, use the past simple passive to complete. Let's look at the first one. Our house, blah blah, built in 2001. Built. Our house was built in 2001. Second one. These pictures not paid by my sister. These pictures. Pictures is used as plural, and while making it passive, past passive, we should use was, were, plus the past participle of the verb. But pictures is plural, so we use were. But in the brackets, it's written not. So we should make it negative. These pictures weren't painted by my sister. The art center designed by Mr. Foster. The art center is singular, so we use was, and the past participle of the verb design becomes designed. The art center designed by Mr. Foster. By Mr. Foster is our agent in the sentence. 4. The paintings still last night. The paintings, it's plural, so we should use were plus verb 3, which is stolen. The paintings were stolen last night. This book not printed in Germany. This book, it is used as singular, so we should make it, so we should say was not printed in Germany. This book wasn't printed in Germany. It's a negative sentence used in the past.